Ravewood, and today I want to talk to you about Surtling farms. So this is apparently called a fire geyser. I always just called it a vent. Around these things, every 5 minutes spawns up to 3 Surtlings, and hopefully one will show up here in a minute or two. Surtlings kind of look like people, but short, skinny, and surrounded in fire. And when you kill them, they drop coal and also Surtling cores, which makes them rather useful to farm because Surtling cores you gotta go in and uh, clear out dungeons in the Dark Forest in order to get more, and you use quite a few of them throughout the game. They also drop the Surtling trophy here. You can see it on the item stand, and a certain Surtling trophy can be used as a minor light source. It puts out just a little bit of light, but it has the advantage of you never have to refill it like you do torches or other standard light sources. The Surtling cores also produce light, but you can't put them on an item frame, unfortunately. Oh, there they are. You can see they started spawning and they immediately started taking damage. That's because they're fire creatures and they don't like being in water here. So, the easiest way of making a Surtling farm is just to start off by taking your pickaxe and just mining the ground down around it until it's all beneath water level. And I actually did that already to this one. And then I came back with the hoe and leveled it all out to, you can see, about knee deep. That way there, I don't have to worry about getting stuck in deep water where I'm slowed down or going into swim mode or anything if I come under attack. So this is a very simple version of a Surtling farm. However, I'm not a simple Surtling farm kind of guy. I want something a little bit more luxury. So, if we pop through this portal, we can see an example. Now, I went through several iterations in making this, and this was the final result that I came up with, and what I like best. You can see they spawned there, they all died, everything is contained within the stone wall. The walls also keep me pretty safe from the outside swamp creatures, so I don't have to worry about Draugr or skeletons bothering me. Wraiths can fly over the walls, and that's not really much of a problem though because they get kind of stuck on the walls and can't fly around very well, and it makes them very easy targets. Also, if you get them to fly into the fire vent, they do not like that. So this farm is good and all. It's got a great design, but you can also see that nothing has shown up here since we walked over here. You know, when we came here, the initial group of 3 Surtlings spawned, and then that was it. It's because Surtlings only spawn every 5 minutes, which makes these vents really slow as a farm. But what you can do is chain together several of these Surtling vents. So when you chain these farms together, they work very simply. You can see I just walked into the first one here and they automatically spawned and died. And then I'm just going to walk into the next teleporter. And now I can just hold down the W button. And I'm just going to keep walking forward. It's spawning them off to the side. They died. You could hear that when the teleporter was going through its loading sequence. And then I just hold W and I just walk straight into the next teleporter. And if your first teleporter, or sorry, if your last node in your farm sequence connects back to your first one, which is what we'll do when we're done making the farm today, then you'll just keep going through a loop and you can just have something wait down your keyboard button for a moment and it'll just automatically go through the whole loop for you, and you can have it doing that for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so, and then come back and collect all the loot. The first step on this venture, of course, is going to be exploring the swamps, and in particular finding these fire geysers. And I recommend marking them all on the map as you go, and you can see here I've got these 2 marked and then these 4 that are already nodes to the farm. We're going to build up this one right here in this episode. The second step, and I recommend you do this as you explore, is to grab your trusty pickaxe and break the ground down around the Surtling vent, or the fire geyser, so that way there, the Surtlings just automatically spawn in the water and start dying. And not only is this, a super cheap and simple way of making the farm, because this is a fully functional farm right here, but it also, if you take and just drop it down a little bit, you can come back through and hoe it all like I did, and that way there, this whole area is like knee level or below, and you don't have to worry about getting slowed down in deeper water or going into the swim animation, because both of those are tedious and annoying. Also, an added benefit is the leeches can't get in here to attack me, so I'm nice and safe when I'm standing in here farming, from leeches. The next step after you have located all of your vents that you want to build is to just come back into the area here and bring a crafting table or a stack of wood for crafting tables and a teleporter, and connect that up right away, and then throw out a couple of chests so that you have room for all the resources that you're gonna bring. Now I can just go back through this teleporter to my base, grab all my stuff, come through here and drop it all off, and then I have everything right here to get started without having to trudge through the swamp very far. The next thing to do is to come over and stand at the Surtling vent and look around and see which direction do you want to build the corridor off in, because it goes quite a ways away. So that would be a good direction because there's not a lot of the big trees or fallen trees in the way, and also anywhere in this direction would be a good way for the same reasons. I'm actually going to go towards where I put up this temporary portal, just because that's going to allow me to also activate both of the farms at the same time. Another consideration for building these farms is that you can't break these big trees or these fallen trees, so my farm is going to have to be built around this one. If it wasn't for this being a double vent and wanting to play with this double vent, I would probably not even build at this vent at all and just leave this one alone, because the vents are not uncommon. I've got 6 of them in this swamp alone, and there's at least another dozen swamps on this map, probably way more. So it's easy to find these fire geysers. We've talked about kind of the getting started on building the farm and how to get our stuff here easily and so on. Let's actually pop down to the other fire geyser and we'll go over how to actually build one of these farms up together. They're actually really simple, and once you get it down, it only takes you about 20 minutes to actually build one. The crafting bench and stone cutter over there are cutting off the spawns, so I don't have to worry about spawns while I'm building. And I do recommend hoeing out the ground to be level, just because it makes it easier to be placing blocks in the area. So let's get started with placing the actual blocks. Now, I start off with some wood and try to get it fairly centered. That wasn't very good. Let's try there. Still needs to go a little more towards me. There we go. That's pretty centered. Alright. And then you can make just a 2x2 section and then add the corners. And now this is the outline of your 4x4. Now that you have this in place, it's easy to come in here and add these big stone walls because they'll just snap right to them. Although this tree is certainly going to make it a little bit more difficult to build. So, you are definitely going to run into places where the trees can possibly entirely prevent this from being a usable farm area, and you'll just have to judge that for yourself as whether or not you want to work around the trees. Because these bigger trees here, you cannot chop them down. There's no way to knock them down at all. So, You just kind of have to work around them. These smaller trees like this one right here though, if you walk up to it and it says ancient tree, then you can chop that down and get it out of the way. In fact, I am building this direction specifically, and my hallway is going to go out that way, just because there's a nice long open area where I've got plenty of room to build. The big tree sticking through a little bit like this, or one of the downed logs sticking through, isn't really a big deal as long as your walls are up high enough that the surtlings can't walk out, because they won't spawn on the walls, but they could potentially walk up a fallen log and get out that way, and that's no good. We want them to spawn and fall in the water as quickly as possible. Okay, now that I've got the walls in place, I'm going to come back through and build up the stone floor. And the reason why I do the walls first is because that keeps or gives me a nice thing to snap to with the stone floor. Usually. There we go. Alright, I can already see I'm going to have to lower the ground a little bit if I want it to look nice and pretty. Let me pick up all this wood real quick. Alright, so you can see I've got a couple of spots on the ground here. And so what I'm going to do is just take and break the ground down a little bit. And then switch over to the hoe and re-level the area. There we go. That'll still give everything, or still allow everything to be nice and supported. You can see I've got the foundational blue block color around the edges there. But it both makes it easier to snap and, oh, I'm out of stone, and prevents the floor from having the annoying dark spots sticking through it. Okay, so now we've got our 2x2 floor tile in, and let's go ahead and get our stairs into place next. And it does not want to snap there. So you can throw down a block underneath of it, but you can either leave those there or you can break them back out. You can see it's still touching the dirt underneath the water there, and it's still that nice foundational blue color. So that is all you need. You don't have to waste additional stone by leaving the blocks underneath. Alright, and you can use these smaller blocks in order to build up this section of the wall, but each one of these takes 4 stone, and this big piece only takes 6 stone. So it's actually cheaper on stone just to use all these big pieces. And it just means that we have a little bit of the stone sticking out right here, but you're not really going to see the farm from the outside, so that isn't really a big deal. Alright, I am going to move the crafting tables over, and I also need to take and lower this ground here, because this is all going to be in the way. Let's see, how far do I need to lower it? Is that good enough? Yep. Alright, that was good enough for ground, or lowering the ground. I'm going to take and work this out all the way back a little ways, so that I can have nice foundational blue, just because that makes it all stronger and has less chance that it's going to break on me. I also wonder, but I've never looked into it yet, if it affects the durability of the structure, because that would make sense to being a real life type situation. Alright, I need to move my crafting tables and such, and I'm gonna move the stone so I don't have to walk as far also, and I will be back in a moment. Alright, so I moved all that stuff and then I went and slept. Also pops a portal right over there. I do recommend keeping an eye on your food while you're doing this, because you are in the swamp and things will attack you. But also keeping a portal active nearby in case you do die and have to come back and get your stuff. While working on building my other 3 nodes and then revamping them so that they were all in the latest style, I've had 2 rounds of shaking events and a foul smell from the swamp event. And so you gotta be careful, especially with those events. The trolls can do a lot of damage to these walls pretty quick. So we've got the Surtling spawner room built up, and the nice thing about this is they will all spawn within this 4x4 area. So you don't have to worry about them like spawning on top of the walls or anything. They're all stuck inside of here, and all their drops are going to be stuck inside of here because the drops can't go through the wall either. So you can just come down in here, and because at like knee heights or below, you can just walk around through here easily and collect up all the drops. Now this hallway, I like it to be too wide just because it gives more space for walking and feels less claustrophobic. But there is no reason why you cannot do a one wide wall, which will save a little bit of stone. So the next thing is I want the walls to be as high as possible without having to spend too much stone. So if you take and pop these right in here, you'll have nice things to snap onto, and it also covers up any little gap right there. Come on. There we go. Aim at the wall. And now you got snap on, and then you can get these top ones on, and now your wall is two sections high, and now you can just keep expanding out. And later you can come back through and raise the ground if you want to try and get that also to have the nice foundational blue color, but it won't break the way it is, so it's not a big deal. As for the hallway itself, it needs to be 10 of these 2x2 meter tiles. So the stairs count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, out of stone. Okay, 9 and 10, if I remember right, but we will double check that count in just a second. 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. Alright, now this is the length of the hallway, and this just gives enough space that when we make the area over here for our teleporters, that it's far enough away that their range of non-spawning doesn't cover any of the Surtling room. Now, this last room needs to be 5 tiles wide, so the walkway here is 2 tiles wide. So I just took and put this in here for something to snap to, so that I could get this aligned in the middle. Whoa! Well, you know it was gonna come under attack at some point. He made a weird noise and then caught me off guard. Okay. So I just went through and raised up the side with the hoe real quick. I just like doing that because then it helps give this more support, and there's no downside to giving it more support. But it also isn't really a big deal if it doesn't quite have enough support. And apparently I got it a little bit too high right there. Okay, there we go. This last room is 5x2, and you can make this bigger, wider if you want more space, but this is enough room that gives you a good amount of space without taking up a lot of stone, because the bigger you make it, the more stone it's going to use. Alright, let's build up the walls real quick. So we can just take and keep bringing these out, but now here you see, if we keep placing it there, it's going to go into the room, so we just want to take and see about getting it to snap to the floor here. And it doesn't seem to want to do that. It'll be easier on this side because I've brought up the floor already. Oh, more stone. So here, because I brought up the floor, it's, for the ground level, it's snapping nicely. But on this side right here, it doesn't want to snap because it wants to go a block lower into the ground. So that's one additional reason for raising it all up higher and making it nice. Alright. And then for this little short section of wall right here, you can see I'm just overlapping it with this corner piece. So I'm overlapping it with this corner piece, and that just keeps it from sticking out on the edge. There's no reason, it doesn't matter either way, really. And then we're just going to keep bringing the wall around. We'll have 3 of these across the back wall. Had you snapped for a second. There we go. Snapped. If you don't want to bring up the wall, you can also just take and put a temporary block under there, and then get the snap into place, and then break back out the temporary block. Alright, so the stone portion of this is all done. Next we want to just take and throw on a roof so that the crafting table and such doesn't take damage. Either roof angle is just fine, it doesn't really matter which one you use. I'm going to use the 26-degree one here, just because it makes it easier to run over the top of the roof. You can also take and extend the roof out down this hallway if you want. It's totally unnecessary, but you can't cover up the fire, because if it's covered up then it will most likely stop spawning. I haven't built up the walls high enough to actually give it a try, but I know that's the way it works with my gray dwarf farm in my other world. Alright, last thing to do is to set up your portals on either side here, and I try to get them as far back against the back wall as I can. And in order to make a nice way of getting both in and out of here, I like to throw the ladders in on the inside, and then I put a little bit of a place to step up there, and I'll throw ladders out on the outside also. That way if I'm out wandering through the swamp and need a teleporter to get back home, I can easily just come hop out in any one of these Surtling farms and get back into a teleporter area. I usually put out one of these on each end. There we go. Now I can easily get back up. Alright, and I'm going to take and replace these crafting tables back against this back wall, and that'll just keep them tucked out of the way. I do recommend leaving the stone cutter at each one of these, because that way there you have an easy way of repairing your walls. You can even get the iron from a local sunken crypt and use the surtling cores that are dropped by the farm to make the furnaces to smelt it up. Leaving these things against this back wall here will cover most of the farm. Covers up to right about here. You can see workbench, no workbench on the ability to build this floor tile down below. It ends right about here. You can always just break the stone cutter and then replace it in the corridor because it's wide enough that there's enough room, and then that'll cover this area and allow you to repair the stone in this room if you need to. I've had to do that for the ground is shaking events when the trolls start spawning. Alright, and lastly, I like having a little bit of storage in each spot, so I just want to make it central, so I put in that first one just as a spacer, and now I've got a little center spot here that I can put a chest. But looks like I need more wood. Oh, I just need to put the ladder on this back wall, and then I am all done. Now, there's certainly more that you could do to make this place a little bit more user-friendly. In particular, adding lights. You can see it's gotten dark on me as I've been building, and the swamp's already dark, and especially with YouTube's compression algorithm that makes everything darker on the screen for some reason, you're probably having a pretty hard time seeing right now. It's not particularly bright for me either. So overall material prep, I would get chest of stone plus 3 additional stacks, and 2 stacks of wood, plus your 2 portals, so that's 40 fine wood, 4 Surtling cores and 20 gray dwarf eyes, and then also 2 stone for the stone cutter. And that's everything that you need to make this whole portal node. We're here at my first node in the Surtling farm because the first node is going to be just slightly different. So the Surtling spawning room is all the same, and this hallway is the same. I did uncover a muddy scrap pile when I was digging the ground away here, and I thought it was cool and unique, so I wanted to integrate it into this build. Thank you, I appreciate your coal. The hallway itself here is the same, except down here I added in some storage. That way there I could store Surtling cores and coal on site. This last room here is the main spot that's different. So you can see we've got 3 portals in this one. We've got the portal to go to the second node, and then the portal to loop back around from the last node back to the first one. But then we've got this third portal here, which is where you actually enter the farm at. So this goes back to my portal hub. And in order to give a little bit more space, to have plenty of room for the 3 portals and the crafting tables, I made this room an extra tile wide. So it is 5 tiles across and 3 tiles deep or wide. Last thing to talk about here is my third node is a good example. You can see the tiles lining up. Instead of splitting it half and half, there's actually 2 tiles going off to this side and 1 off to that side, because there's some trees right there and I can't take that tree down, so I just move the tile a little bit over. So you need to be a little bit flexible in your building style in order to make some of this work out right. To use this farm, it couldn't be simpler. You just come over to the portals, and the portals connecting this farm up to the next one and making the loop all the way through all of them are directly opposite the room from each other. So that way there, when you walk through one portal, you just weight the W key down and it'll just automatically keep you walking straight into the next portal across the room. And you need to have this much space in between the portals, which is on the opposite sides of 5 of the floor tiles, because it has a cooldown for the portal. You have to wait so long before you can enter the next portal, or it won't actually teleport you. So you just sit here and weight down your W key. I used the stand from my microphone, and it's a tripod, so I just put it on the W key and it held it down and worked fantastically. I went AFK for 45 minutes with looting it once in the middle, and I got a full chest plus another over half chest. That's 500, 750, 764 coal in 45 minutes. And then also 115 Surtling cores. In addition to that, we got 7 trophies, which from my other times of exploring this, I feel like I got bad luck on getting trophies, but oh well. You keep using this farm long enough and you will have more trophies than you could imagine what to do with. So I am super happy with how this farm has turned out, and I am never going to have to chop down trees to make coal again, which makes me happy because I want to chop down trees so that I can build stuff. So if you want to go over kind of my iterative process that I went through in building up my different designs, I kind of talked about it a bit in my last episode of my Let's Play series Raveheim. If you end up making a farm similar to mine or following this tutorial, I would love to hear about it down in the comment section. If there was anything that didn't work for you or changes that you made, I'd love to hear about those too, because I haven't actually researched anybody else's farm designs and I don't know what other people are doing. And if you like this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more Raveheim and Valheim content. And until I see you next time, I hope you have fun gaming, and goodbye!